Oh, hey there, it's me, Mr. Miller. Today we're going to talk about the characteristics of living things. And there are certain characteristics that living things have in common. So let's go ahead and begin our notes. The first characteristic of all living things is that living things have cells. Now, there are two main types of cells that we're going to talk about in this chapter, unicellular and multicellular. Unicellular means one cell. So think unicycle, one tire, unicellular, one cell. This includes bacteria. Then we have multicellular, meaning many cells. That's us, animals, plants. We are considered multicellular organisms. The second characteristic of living things is they have to be able to obtain and use energy. All living things need food, water, and energy to grow, develop, and carry out their daily life processes. Now, as a quick review from elementary, we learned about autotrophs, heterotrophs. Autotrophs, producing their own food, automatically producing it, are producers. They get energy from the sun, so plants are autotrophs. The second type, heterotrophs. They are the consumers. They get their energy by consuming nutrients from their environment. That's us. That's animals. The third characteristic of all living things is they have to be able to grow and develop. So, for example, butterflies, they start off as an egg, they hatch, they form a caterpillar, caterpillar forms a chrysalis, it emerges as a butterfly. Plants start off as a seed and eventually grow into a larger plant. Humans start off as a baby and grow into just bigger forms of ourselves. The fourth characteristic of all living things is that living things need to be able to produce or reproduce. Cells come from cells, otherwise known as mitosis. Each cell divides to make new cells, which is the cell division, and we'll get into that mitosis a little bit towards the end of the chapter. This results in growth. The fifth characteristic of all living things is we have to be able to respond and adapt to our environment. So we have a stimulus and a response. The stimulus is a change in the environment. A change in the light, the temperature, the sound, the taste, the chemicals. And of course that organism has to be able to adapt to that. The response is the reaction to that stimulus the organism has. A great example is what you see to the right there. We see that the sun sets, and as the sun sets, the flower now closes up. So the stimulus is the amount of light that's being reduced, and the response is the flower is now closing up. As a result, the response. The sixth characteristic of living things is known as DNA. All living things have to have DNA, which stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. DNA passes on genetic information from one generation to the next. So the DNA, that genetic information that came from your great-grandpa was passed to your grandpa, then on to your father, and then on to you. So it just keeps getting passed down. Those are the characteristics, the main characteristics that we want to know of living things before we get too far into our chapter. At the bottom of our notes are a few questions. 4 questions I'd like you to answer. The answers come from our notes that we just took. Question 1, what does unicellular mean? Question 2, what does multicellular mean? Question 3, how does a cell make a new cell? And 4, what does DNA stand for? Okay, we'll see you in class.